Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of the MidVibe. I am Ashna Janeda and I bring to you one person each week who's at the middle of his or her own journey towards that one big dream. Today I have with me Keshav Kalra, a 27-year-old entrepreneur. He began his journey at the age of 18 and since then there has been no turning back. He started his own brand by the name of The Monk, which has actually given other foreign brands a run for their own money. Let's check it out how and why. Hi, KK. I finally have a juice, not a drink, because I thought I'll keep it very casual. So, how are you doing?
I have a drink. I'm doing well. That's why I'm well, I think, because I have a drink.
So, I've known KK for a while now, for I think 2-3 years now, properly. And I've always seen him talking about his passion project, which I won't mention right now because I want him to talk about it. And genuinely speaking, when I started thinking about MidVibe's idea and the concept behind it, the first person who came to my mind was him. So I'm so excited to actually finally have you after so many schedules.
I'm glad and that's high praise. Yeah. I'm glad and that's high praise coming from you.
So my first question, I think, for this entire conversation would start off with, what's your story? How did you start The Monk? And I know that you didn't really follow the conventional approach of starting something of your own. I know that for a fact because I've heard you talk about it. So I think just start with what's your story. Yeah.
So as a story, I think I gave education quite a big importance in my life, and I think my father and mother gave me quite an impetus to just start and create something of my own, rather than sort of fit in and just be a piece of the puzzle. Try to create the puzzle itself. So, that was a journey that led me to innovate and I think find my own way. They've never said no to any passion of mine. I think that's been sort of the best thing in my life is having parents like that who not said no to anything. Like whether it be any of my sport or any of the crazy ideas that I ever got, I've always got a pat on my shoulder telling me that it's okay to try. Even if you fail, you should at least try. I think that's been one of my biggest motivators in terms of just finding success anywhere I can. And my journey actually started through the same push where I was so to say, when you're 18, you try to find yourself. Mm-hmm. So in trying to find myself, I always knew that I had a thing with words and I always wanted to write. But I always also knew that I had my father's business that he's sort of spent his entire life building. And to let that go in vain is something that didn't sit well with me. But I didn't want to, like I said, be a part of the puzzle as just a piece. I wanted to create my own puzzle. So I tried to sort of understand his business. But being my father, he had his own plans of how to educate me in terms of even business, which I still respect and I think is the right way to go. I think it taught me more than any business school can teach anyone. The start of every businessman's journey is the start of how they learn about their own business rather than anyone else's first. So learning the small aspects was sort of giving me my own wings in a way that I figured out that I don't need to handle the business like he did. He never wanted that. He wanted me to understand the business and then make it my own. So that's what I think led me to my the place where I am today is that journey where I understood that what I can create and what the market needs. Because an innovator and an artist shouldn't always create something for his own self. He should create an art that is basically accepted by everyone. It doesn't mean that you feel the same way about my art or my product. It means I am able to communicate what I felt about my product to you. So that's what I thought what the market needs. I could have easily diverged into a place where I'm making something of gold and maybe something extremely luxury. But my understanding of the business came from what the market needed. It didn't need something luxury. It wanted something where the quality is there, so is the fashion, but they didn't want it to be made of precious stones. And I think our generation's sort of the fast food generation where they want fashion that changes tomorrow. Right. So I sort of wanted to build that price category and give them the design that they want. Anyone can make shoes out of socks like Balenciaga did, but I try to reinvent the sock itself.
And that's a very interesting point. So when you said that your dad had his own way of educating you into his business, right? How did he do that? Can you elaborate more on that phase? Were you treated like any other employee? because you're the third generation of your business, and it's quite a renowned business in India for that matter. So how was it like?
Basically, I've been born with a silver spoon, but I've never been like force fed. I've always been told to how to feed your own self, and that's been the same way my father sort of put me into the business. He told me, and he started me from the grassroots level where I was supposed to be in the mechanic room, so to say, and learn the sort of the technical departments of what it entails to make a frame, like all the lenses or the contact lenses, and like I'm not a doctor, so to say, but I can sort of handle the doctor's job there, even though there is a doctor for that job at our stores. And like I can just be like a guide for the doctors as well. My customer can also ask me the same question he asks my, like, so to say, optometrist, and I can sort of respond to them correctly or find the best way possible. And that is only because how I started the business, going to the various different departments, like the sales, the accounts, the technical department, is the basic way of how you create your own, basically how you create the structure around your own business, and how you know what bricks have been put into making that structure.
Tell me more about the idea of the monk, because I've gone through your website, I've gone through your page, and it's very different. It's not like any other brand you see in India, especially. And I think it's also one of the firsts of its kind, right?
Yeah.
So tell me more
So
about it. How did you start it? How did this idea come out?
I think the idea came out of realizing what the market needed at this point of time.
Yeah.
And like I've always loved doing basically what no one's done before. So that basically it's easy to make mistakes there also because no one's done them before. So like but the problem is you have no case study to go by. And so it was a challenge for me where I wanted to give the consumer, like I said, luxury, style, and but at an affordable price. So as to today they can wear something and maybe next week they want to change it, they can still change into something else. Give them that quality, give them that assurance of an Indian brand carry. And how do you make an Indian brand stand out was the biggest problem that I sort of faced. But so challenge was met by just marketing it smartly and making a product worthy of that. So the difference between my brand and the other brands being, we've always, if you talk about a Ray-Ban or a Gucci or like even a Prada or like this, even a Tommy Hilfiger, those are made for the European nose. European designers design it, so they're all made for the European nose. Whereas no one actually cared enough to take down the nose molds of Indians, and there's no other Indian brand that's makes it on such a volume. So we took into account these small things, and we took Indian nose mold sizes. We took them to China so that our nose could be as easy to wear as like clothes are. You don't want frames to be adjusted to you or adjusted to Indian nose. I wanted like Indian noses to have the frame that is ready from the get go, and not like right now where we adjust to European nose standard. I think I wanted to give the people something that they don't have to adjust to, that they can own.
Yeah, got it. Something that sits perfectly on your nose and on
I'm
your
sure you've
structure.
modeled for me, so you
Oh,
know.
yes, I have. For your reference, guys, you can go check out his page on Instagram. You will see me as the model. What I want to know is why you named your brand as the Monk. And I mean, what's the idea behind that name? And I've also seen your products have like different names. And so why? What's the idea behind it?
So, like I think told you, and I think you know about the history of me with writing and everything. So, I think that's a part of my personality that will always be there. And if there's a product designed by me, it sort of has to have that extension of like how I would design a product, how I would name a product, how I would like basically conceive a baby and then sort of deliver it. So this is all my products are exactly that. So whether it comes to like a product like Touch, Arrow, Kama, like all my products, I didn't want the customer to basically go home with a product that is just a serial number. I wanted the customer to go home with a product that's a story in itself. So there's an entire card, an entire story that goes around it. And the monk, the name came about like I'm not that religious, but I do love religious texts, and I love that what we can learn from it, other than how like they can be used into doing other things as well. But I rather took the creative part from them, and they're beautifully written in a way where they're so philosophical, where you have every line can sort of work in every part or every aspect of your life. And that's the thing that where I think the monk embodies. The monk embodies a person who is waiting to learn and who's not full of himself or full of knowledge already to take on anything more.
Mm.
A monk is ever evolving. And I think I love that about being a monk.
Yeah.
A monk is not steady ever. A monk is
So your
always on the
brand
move.
is ever evolving.
Exactly.
Oh wow,
So
yeah.
I like that journey of not reaching an end ever. So that even maybe like
Mm.
after like years and years that tomorrow, like, someone else is handling monk or something. So he remembers the vibe of we're still not there yet. And I think that's the best part about existing as a human. Like even if you're not there, you're still
Mm.
there evolving. And I
That's
think
so
I hope
true.
to leave a mark like that.
That's amazing. Same, it's damn deep. Wow. One more thing. Uh, since you're the third generation of your family business, my dog's trying to come in. Since you're in the you're a part of the third generation. I'm sure you have your equal shares of opinion differences, those conflicts that happen. Can you share about that? Like your dadaji, your dad, and you sitting on a table. How is it like?
So, like you said, those are three generations. So all
Yeah,
generations have seen a different time. I
yeah.
think we are seeing a part of history right now that we are talking over a video call, and this is a part of history, the COVID history, so to say. So we're all seeing a time where I think tomorrow COVID would also result to a different way of fashion. Tomorrow,
Mm.
like masks are supposed to come into fashion. So every generation goes through their own teaching, and
Mm.
time, like I think everyone knows, is the best teacher. So I think it is important to have those conflicts. If you don't have those conflicts, or I'd rather say that I'm blessed to have the other two generations guiding me through this,
Mm.
because not a lot of people have that luxury of having that experience like right at home. Whereas
Right.
if I want to like make something on a 50s design, I've got my grandfather. If I want to make something on the 80s design, I've got my father. And if I want to make something futuristic, I think they both have got me. So
Yeah.
that's the way I think one should treat generational businesses, is by taking into account all the experiences rather than eliminating and some calling something old school. Because I think like fashion and even history has taught us that nothing goes out of fashion.
Mm.
Everything repeats itself. So one should
That's true.
always know what's right.
If just general, if you take your time, think if you think there's one specific thing that just something that you learned in the past few years and you think that every person who's trying to start off should know, what would that be if you could think about that?
I think what I see, like maybe I'm wrong, maybe I've seen a very wrong spectrum, but the young generation that, like, I'm feeling old as soon as I'm saying this, but the next that is coming through I think I've seen this problem with them. They all, I think everyone wants to be an entrepreneur without having the experience,
Yeah,
first of all.
being
And
entrepreneur
second,
is that new sexy vibe nowadays. Like, I want to
yeah,
be an
it's like,
entrepreneur.
I think it's like a Facebook, like how people used to have relationships on Facebook to reflect everything about their life, like single to
Yeah.
even committed. I think being an entrepreneur is something that they want to have on their social media more than anything. So that's what I feel is, I think, a biggest mistake that that young generation's making, because the time they're faking it to themselves is the time that actually life is faking it to them. So
Right.
that's, and like second, I would say that I've seen, like, not only with the past or the new generation or even my generation, there's this new habit with people of not completing things. Everyone likes to ideate. Like me and you can today talk about a very good idea that we want to start, but then it'll be like a Diwali Goa trip that we never have.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's true.
that's something that I really want, to appear less, because I want to see more products rather than more ideas.
Yeah.
Like
The thing
basically
is,
things
people
that
are
are,
actually more scared to start off. They're just like, how are people going to
I
judge
won't call
me?
that scared.
They're
I'd
very
call them less
skeptical about
motivated.
it. Less
Like, see,
motivated is what
overthink
you're saying.
100%, 100%. Like nothing can scare you more than not doing it. Like
Yeah.
failing only comes after you trying, right? How can you
Yeah.
fail without even trying? So
Because when I was
so
starting off this page, MidVibe, I had this idea and I was so skeptical about it, honestly, because and sometimes people have an image about yourself. And I think most of the times why people don't move forward with their plan is because they get stuck in how other people are going to perceive their image. And that, I think, I personally feel that is the major cause for your low motivation initially.
But don't you think that's sort of self-contradictory when you're sort of trying to sell it to the other person and then you're worrying about them buying it?
That's true. That's
So,
very true.
so either you sell it to them or be worried about them buying it. You can only, put your feet in one boat. You really can't sail with two boats. That's, I think,
That's so
one
true.
thing that's what I see with people. Like, I'm not saying every idea is a good idea. We all have some brain farts. Who doesn't
Hmm.
have them? But like, I think like we all need to at least try and give it a shot
Yes.
so that tomorrow we don't have a bad idea again. It's important to fail also to, I think, motivate yourself enough to become a success.
Plus, I think any creative process is also the most terrifying one because you don't know what's coming up next. You're trying to bring something new to the market and you have no idea how it's going to turn out. It's so terrifying, but then you just have to take that leap of faith. Just have that belief that if you try, if you give your 100%, it might just work out.
But I would say in my experience, it was writing. Like I would write a story, an entire script, and maybe like after spending like a week or even a month on that, I myself, let alone others, won't like the outcome of it.
Yeah. Okay.
So like or maybe I've just been inspired by a story and sort of copied it down. Then I realized seeing that old movie from like years back that, oh shit, I've copied this movie from this, so I really can't call this script my own. So that, like, I think rejection's been part of my own sort of defense mechanism where I tend to reject my own problems. So I think I worry about myself rejecting them more than I think others. So, because I am like the biggest critic for my own self, and I think one should be. If one isn't success, I don't think so. I'm not even calling myself successful, but I'm just trying to reach there with a positive mind, and I hope like others can also.
But doesn't that stab you back sometimes? Because when you yourself are the biggest critic of yourself, it might just take the faith out of you, the motivation out of you some days.
So that's a good question. I would say just that. What would you rather have? Like, would you rather have another one, like another human being, tell you a problem in your brand that you've never noticed, or you noticing it for yourself and already having an answer for it? I think
Yeah,
there
that
you'll
makes
have your answer
sense.
of the best critic.
Yeah.
So, like today, if you tell me about my hair today being long, I already know that they're long and I know why they're long. So, even if you tell me that they're not looking nice, I have enough to tell me that ठीक है quarantine का time था मेरे को लंबे बाल पसंद है. So whatever you tell me is secondary because I have given myself enough of that thing कि नहीं अच्छा लग रहा है यार अब ऐसा है ऐसे बाल उड़ रहे हैं ऐसे जो भी है. मतलब I think you need to sort of tell yourself enough कि गलत भी है सही भी है लेकिन हाँ that's you. Even if you make a mistake, it'll be your mistake. You have to own it. You don't have to like put the blame on someone else. That if your business failed, it's okay. Tomorrow, like the mistakes you made. Like I'm sort
Mm,
of glad to have my father to support me through that, and so, to basically say this openly that I am allowed to fail, and I don't think
yeah.
so. There's anything wrong about it. I think I'm trying. I obviously try not to fail. It's not that I try and do everything, but I think it is very important to know your own mistakes and sort of see where you're going. And it is not bad to be a perfectionist. The problem is not like working so hard on perfection that you never have an outcome. How can you strive for a perfect product before even getting your idea in the air? You need to sort of start. Like there needs to be like some sort of the ball moving about your idea,
Mm,
your work, something about that, so that you see something coming about and then maybe try to perfect it. Other than मेरे को पूरा ही पहले perfect करके launch करना है. ये पूरा perfect कभी किसी से नहीं हुआ आज तक.
in fact, perfection achieve करने में you will lose all the time and the idea is gone by then.
Exactly, and I like really think people should stop like fantasizing about role models as if they're living their lives. Not
Yeah.
everyone can be a Steve Jobs, but can work as hard as him. Books are
Hmm.
supposed to tell you that. Books aren't supposed to tell you that तुम Steve Jobs हो. क्योंकि
Hmm.
Steve Jobs वही है. You like aim to have your own story rather than be a story in someone else's book.
Yeah. Be your own story, have your own path, and have your own recipe for success. Before we conclude this conversation, if you could just that one very important core habit that you learned in this entire journey, and something you personally feel that every person who's trying to start something of their own should know.
It's a very simple habit of mine that I've seen my grandfather do, and I think it's one habit that has sort of made me achieve 10 tasks in a day rather than 5. And I think it's very simple. It was just noting down your tasks in a in a book, and not like it's quite old school of having a pen
Yeah.
and paper do it. Like I think everyone can have their own medium or their own way of making lists,
Mhm.
but just making a to-do list of all facets, be it as small as getting supplies, or as or as big as you figuring out your website, but more in detail of what exact parts you want from your website, so that tomorrow when you have that time to address those things, you have all your problems in one spot, or
Mhm.
even date them. Like I usually keep it on a per day basis, where I need to complete these tasks in a day. And even though if I've had a bad day, any night I come back and look at the tasks that I've completed, I feel that I worked enough to have a
Yeah,
sound
sense of
night's sleep.
accomplishment.
Yeah, and as soon as a book gets over and a copy gets over, I feel like that's a lot of work I've done this year.
Yeah.
So I think it's just hard work that shows to yourself, not to anyone else.
Mm.
And when you see that thing, that task that you've written not crossed out, you know what you've left. You know
Yeah.
what was the thing that you could have done but you didn't do, and maybe that's the reason that you didn't succeed or succeeded.
Oh my god. I never thought of it from that way. The last line you just said. That might be the reason why you didn't succeed or did succeed. That's actually a different way of seeing it. So I think let's conclude our conversation now. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Ashna.
Yeah. Bye.